Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining the pre-cruise webinar. A couple of things that I wanted to mention with everyone before we got started. If you have not yet sent back the name that you want on your name tag, please do so. Otherwise, we are going to do the first name that is on your documents that you received from Uniworld. Everyone by now should have received their documents that had 4 attachments. I'm going to kind of go through the documents quickly. So I assume everyone has their documents. So if rather than Jonathan, you want John, or instead of John Edward Brenneman, I want to go by Eddie, just let us know what that first name is. We will have your first and last name both on your name tag. Secondly, we cannot put your name on the passenger manifest unless you give us permission. So that's basically going to be people's names, mailing address, and email address is all that's included on that. If for some reason you wanted to be included on it and did not want any of, say, I didn't want my email address listed, just let us know. As soon as I hear back from everybody, I did this for the last signature group and it worked well. I'm going to send everybody the manifest so you can look over it and make any changes that you want to make. So that way, when we are on board the ship and we pass this out, it will be accurate. We have 54 people in our group going on this cruise, so it'll be a little bit over 1/3 of the ship. So unfortunately, we did not sell the ship out, so it won't be exclusively MOAA members, but we are obviously 1/3 of the ship in a very nice sized group. And then the last point, if you have not yet done so, or you haven't done it from a previous signature group, please make sure you have my cell number saved in your phone. If you run into any issues, flight delay, baggage issues, any of those types of things, please text me or call me on my cell. I am going into Lyon early, so I will be on the ship the morning of the 14th. So, and I will have a desk in the lobby. This is actually, the picture on the left is actually the lobby of the Catherine. As you look at this picture, the behind you is the registration desk. So as you look towards this, on the left side, under the left stairs, is the tour director's desk. Under the right side will be my desk. I will be there pretty much throughout the cruise. If you need anything, just kind of see me. But let's say that your flight was delayed and you were going to be late for your transfer. You can just text me or call me, and then I will just let the tour director know to make sure that we can get you picked up if at all possible. So it's always better to have my cell number in your phone if something comes up, rather than trying to dig through papers to find it. By the way, that is a picture of me on a Uniworld ship. That is a French balcony room. I know I've used that some webinars before to kind of show people how the French balcony works. So it's 2 halves of a window. The top part comes down, which kind of makes your entire room your French balcony. We did have a couple of cruises back. Somebody mentioned a couple of days into the cruise that their window didn't go down. All of them go down. I have not yet been on the Catherine. If I had, it would have been like 9 years ago, so I don't remember. But there will be a button to up, lower, and raise that. On the last couple of Uniworld ships I've been on, it's not where you would think it would be, which would be right next to the window. So when you get there, you're going to have someone walk you to your stateroom. If you have a French balcony room or a suite, it's also going to have the kind of French balcony in all the rooms. Just ask them where the button is, or you can go to the front desk. But anyway, I don't think there's much more to say there. This comes up every now and then because it's been in the news. They have passed this back, set the date that this is going to be enacted back numerous times. You do not need the ETIAS, the ITIS sort of visa or visa waiver. The current information we have is it's going to be implemented in the last quarter of 2026. As I said, the last 3 times they've given us a date for this. They've then, as we approached it, set it back even further. So just want everybody to know there's a lot more information than you need to have here. But when I was putting together a slide for the last group I did the same thing. If you're interested about what's forthcoming, this kind of tells it. It's currently still priced at €7. It's good for 3 years. They literally say on there, do it at least 48 hours in advance before you travel. I would recommend doing it weeks in advance at the bare minimum. But as I said, unless you're looking at future trips where you're going to be going in fourth quarter 2026, you do not need to worry about this. We got a number of questions about this on the last pre-cruise webinar we did, so I just figured I would address it up front. Weather, obviously, we're 3.5, 4 weeks out from going on the cruise, but I always kind of like to let people kind of know, what the weather is like. As you can see, it's pretty consistent right now. It is a month out forecast, but a very comfortable 70 degrees during the day, mid 50s at night, which kind of gets into the what to pack. A lot of this information I'm going to go through is in that that kind of brochure-like thing that's included with your documents, kind of the what you need to know before you go kind of deal. Kind of just summarized it, but we always get questions about what to pack. There's a much longer section on this in there, but kind of, always bring a light jacket just in case it rains. When you go on a lot of the excursions, if you're on a bus, it is the same bus that you go out that you come back on, meaning anything you leave on the bus is secure. So particularly if you're going to take like a longer excursion, you may just want to bring some kind of small, like collapsible jacket that you can just leave on the bus, like in your seat or wherever, in case you need it for the walking tours or the one biking tour. I think you can kind of make that determination that day, but it's just always a good thing to bring. As far as the tire, you can kind of read through what they say. I have heard from people before, obviously mid 50s is a little cool. The ship is air conditioned. I have had a number of people before say the dining room in particular is cool. So bring a light jacket. If you're a man, you might want to bring a sport coat or a sweater. Same thing for the ladies. You may want to bring a sweater or something in case you go to dinner and it's cool. But obviously during the day, you shouldn't need anything other than in case it rains. They do talk about possibly bringing something nicer for either the captain's welcome dinner or the farewell dinner. Going to come to the schedule in a second, which shows what evenings those are. You are absolutely not required to bring anything fancy to wear. A lot of times, I'm like the only one who wears a sports coat. But if you want to bring one for one evening, absolutely. They ask no shorts at dinner. Other than that, particularly in the day, wear whatever is comfortable. And the same thing with kind of shoes, right? Bring comfortable shoes. So to lessen your packing, two things. First off, baggage limitations. They want one piece of luggage, one checkable suitcase and one carry-on bag per person. That's kind of for the limitations on the buses that are going to be doing the transfers and stuff like that. I think that's self-explanatory. They're not like the airline. They're not going to say if you have your one suitcase and then I have like a backpack and I have a camera bag or something like that. It's not that kind of thing. In fact, what you carry onto the bus isn't really where the concern is. It's if everybody brings, 2 or more suitcases. Every person brings 2+ suitcases. They're not going to have enough room for all of that luggage in the transfers. Laundry, there is self-service laundry on the ship. They do provide laundry soap. All you do is go to the reception desk and ask for detergent. Sorry, I'm not sure I said that correctly. But anyway, they do have complimentary detergent. So if you kind of bring, when you're packing, if you keep that in mind, that you can just go up to the front desk and say, can I get some detergent? They give you the detergent and they have self-service laundry that you can do at your convenience. Even more convenient is the ship. They have people are used to what you see in most hotel rooms. They do have laundry service where you can put it in a bag. They pick it up one day, bring it back the next. It is not dry cleaning. It is washing, drying, and ironing. If you are in a suite, that is complimentary. There is a fee for it depending on how much. It's the standard form we've all seen in hotels for decades, where how many pairs of trousers, how many socks, how many shorts, how many t-shirts, and there's a price per item. So And then the black and white party, I know I sent out a description before. This is kind of the description which is in that material, which is basically just everybody wears black and white. I think it's a really fun thing to do. So when you're packing, maybe keep that in mind. We certainly recommend it. I kind of alluded to before. Hopefully everybody knows that last month, in fact, I just got off last week, Saturday to be a fact, so just a few days ago, we did our Greek Isles yacht cruise, and we had a white party on that, which is basically a black and white party where everybody wore white instead of wearing white and black. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And that evening at the Dome, which is kind of the nightclub, not nightclub, I guess the lounge, I would say, aboard that ship, I shot a video. And so this is part of the MOAA group. It's not everybody that was there, but I asked everybody who dressed up for the white party who wanted to be in the video to come up on the dance floor. And I just shot a real quick video to kind of give you a feel. I think it added a lot to everybody's enjoyment. So that just kind of gives you an idea. You can actually see a couple of people there in the middle wearing black as well, but it was just a fun event. Okay, kind of get into the meat and potatoes. As you know, I think, and I shouldn't say I think, the website said everybody had a $150 per person onboard credit. I talked to Uniworld. They are just going to give everybody a €150 per person credit. So if you're in a double occupancy cabin, you'll have a €300 onboard credit. If you're in a single stateroom, you'll have a €150 onboard credit. In the past, last year, they would convert from dollars to euros. So we were kind of anticipating this would be around $126 to $128 per person. But when we were talking to them, they said they were just going to convert it to euros. So the question becomes, since this is kind of an all-inclusive cruise, your gratuities are included, your drinks are included, they have complimentary excursions every day. I think, as I said in webinars, if you've watched any of these, you could literally go on this cruise and not spend a single penny, but you have 150 per person to spend. So what can you spend that on? They do have what they call masterpiece collection shore excursions. I'm going to go over those in a minute to give you an idea what those are. But those are kind of, I guess I would say, more in depth or more kind of exclusive kind of excursions. There is a cost to them that are optional available. They do have what they call the Serenity River Spa on board. I think the last cruise I went on, it had an occupancy of 1 for spas. It may be 2 people on this ship. It's tough to tell looking at the thing. If you want a massage, you need to reserve it early, particularly if there's a specific time or date you want it. With the number of people on board the ship, which is going to be around 150, this will fill up quickly. So when you get on board, you can just go by the spa or go to the reception desk, kind of see which types of massages they offer, and go ahead and make your reservation for that. They do have a gift shop. The picture on the right is kind of how they do the gift shop, which are glass cases. So if you look behind the couple, and these are, they're in a couple of different locations, like along the hallway, and this is actually in the cafe. But they have glass cases where they display everything that's up for purchase. Everything, the cases are locked, of course. But if you see something you want, or if you want a price on something, you just go down to the reception desk and just ask them if they can help you make a purchase on board. I typically towards the end of the cruise, I make sure I remind everybody, make sure you use your onboard credit, even if you go up and get gifts. The great thing is almost everything in the cases is going to be priced €100 or less. Because I know we've all had that sticker shock sometimes where you see something in a glass case on a cruise ship and you ask how much it is, and it's hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So that is not the case. Another thing you can use your onboard credit on would be premium wines and spirits. They do have complimentary wine every evening, but they also have like a wine list. If there is a bottle of wine you want to get, or a bottle of champagne for a special occasion. This is a wine kind of centric cruise. So just want to make sure everybody remembers there's no corkage fee. So if you go to a winery or if you're just wandering around town and you pick up a bottle of wine, you can bring it to dinner that evening. The sommelier will serve that to you that evening, and there's no corkage fee. And there's also premium spirits. I don't really, from our experience of doing this now for 6 years, I don't often see people actually use their onboard credit for the premium wines and spirits. The example I always use is they have like Johnny Walker Black and Johnny Walker Red that is free. If you want Johnny Walker Blue, there is additional cost. Those, what they almost like diamond collection, I guess is what they call them, those diamond collection liquors are very reasonably priced. So like a Johnny Walker Blue in Kansas City would be $150, $160. It's like half that on board. So they kind of take into account that all your drinks are included. But one other thing you can use on, and then laundry service. I mentioned that already. If you're not in a suite and you want laundry done, and rather than you're on vacation, you don't want to do it on your own, you have the opportunity to send that laundry out, have them wash it, fold it, and bring it back to your stateroom. And that's the fifth and final thing that you can use that onboard credit from. The last cruise I went on, I think almost half the people ended up spending their onboard credit on the gift shop, just because they didn't use the spa and they didn't do any Masterpiece collections. However, this cruise has more Masterpiece collection options than the average Uniworld cruise. I think off the top of my head, there's 7 of them. So I imagine most people will probably end up spending it there. Okay, so here's our itinerary. This is identical to the one that is in the materials you received, with the exception of the far right column with the onboard events. I did drop in the MOAA welcome reception and the MOAA farewell reception. We will have our welcome reception the first evening on board, and we will have our farewell reception the last evening on board. The welcome reception, that first day on board, there is a lot going on. Everyone's going to be boarding. You know, you're probably going to get in your staterooms around 3 o'clock, maybe a little bit earlier than that. And then that's the evening they're going to do the muster drill. The ship captain will talk briefly. The cruise director will talk, and then the tour director will talk. And then everyone will go to dinner. We will stay in the lounge and let everybody else go down to dinner. They will have a section of the dining room reserved for us just on the first night, but they'll actually put reserved little signs on all of the tables where our group will sit. And then once everybody kind of makes their way out of the lounge, we'll do our welcome reception. Then don't worry about dinner. Dinner is basically, it varies a little bit from night to night, but it's always kind of like a 2-hour window. So if dinner, let's say, is 7 to 9, if everybody else goes to dinner at 7, if we go down at 7:30, you will have plenty of time to have your dinner at leisure. The farewell reception, we are actually going to have a 1-hour kind of event on board. It will have food and drinks, so it's kind of a private cocktail party, I guess I would describe it. And that will be on the last evening. We will have a confirmed time as soon as we get on board. Like almost all these cruise lines, Uniworld's headquarters is in Los Angeles, and a lot of this, they want you to actually confirm the time of it when you're on board. But we will have it that day 7, we'll have that farewell reception. One of the things we want to make sure is, as you look kind of at that column that says the featured excursions or even the Masterpiece excursion, they're both in the afternoon. So we want to make sure that when we schedule that farewell reception, that we schedule it after everybody is back on board and has a little bit of time to freshen up after being out in the afternoon before that reception starts. So we'll probably have the exact time of that scheduled once we get on board, and it'll be easy to disseminate that information. Most likely, I will kind of tell people during the week, but we'll actually have like a invitation, for lack of a better word, sent to all the staterooms. Okay. Excursions. Before I get into Masterpiece excursions, I want to talk about how the featured excursions work. A lot of times people have questions about this. With Uniworld, you do not pre-book your excursions. They're not set up to do that. So you get on day one. Day two, you have a choice of the 3 excursions, and you can read them there. They're all in the AM. And basically, you get on board and you say which one you want to be on, and they have enough space for anyone who wants to go on that excursion can go on it. And then I think day 2 in the afternoon, they will have like a shore excursion talk, and she will go over all the excursions for the remainder of cruise, and they give you a sign-up sheet, and you sign up for what you want to do. Just keep in mind that since they're complimentary, they just kind of want to get a feel for how many people are going. But let's say on day 3, when you turn those sheets in, or day 2, when you turn that sheet in, you decide that you want to do the Avignon walking tour. And in the next day or 2 or 3, depending, when it is, you meet somebody on board, you're talking to them, and they basically say that, they're going to do the other excursion, the Ponte Gatti. And you can just either come up to me, as I said, I will have a desk in the lobby, or you can go up to the reception desk and let them know that you want to change the excursion that you're on. So with those, there's really no issue. As I said, I'm going to talk about the masterpiece collections yet, so I'm going to ignore that column. But I want to come back to kind of make one exception, or 2 exceptions, well, 1 exception to the featured excursions that I just said, and that is the biking tour. And if you look at day 2, when you're in Lyon, and you look at the 3 choices, the C option is let's go Lyon bike tour. They have a limited number of bikes. So if you want to go on biking, as soon as you get on board, let me know. I'll get you on the list, because typically what they will do is that evening, when I mentioned that, they're going to have the muster drill, then the captain talks and the cruise director talks, and then the tour director talks. What she'll do on that first night is kind of go through the options for day 2. So it's not a long talk since all those other talks are going on, but she'll kind of go through those 3 excursions, and basically they'll have their different ways of doing it, but most common would be they'll have like a sign-up sheet. They'll put it on top of the piano or on top of the bar and say, if you want to do the biking, sign up. So if you really want to go biking, when she's done talking, there's kind of a rush to sign up for it. If you let me know when you get on board, John, I want to do biking, I will go ahead and get your name on that sign-up sheet before she puts it out for the 100 people who are not in our group to sign up for it. And it's an interesting thing on that, because when they typically say we only have 20 or 30 or whatever number of spots it is for that biking tour, people always run up and sign up, even though they may not go, just because if they want to go, they can go. So we always tell people, if for some reason or other you don't get signed up and then you decide you want to go, always go out and check that morning, because they always have people no show for the bikings, because it's that kind of sign up now. There's a kind of people rushing, and how human nature is. If everybody is running up to sign up for something, everybody doesn't want to be left out. But anyway, as I said, I will be there the morning of the 14th. When you get on board, if you want to go biking, let me know, and we will get your name on that biking list before it's available to the general public. Okay. So any questions about featured excursions, just drop them in the Q&A, and we'll come back to it. But once again, if featured excursions other than biking, you basically just decide what you want to go on when you're on board. Okay. I guess I had a slide for this. This kind of is a description of what that biking tour is. And it kind of describes it. This is also in the information that you received. But you can kind of see there what it is. If you want to go biking, it's biking. Biking's biking. Not a lot of hills. You mostly drive along the river. One other thing about biking, kind of while you read this, if you're interested in it, any morning or except for the day they have the biking tour, any day or afternoon, they have bikes and walking sticks that you can literally reserve in advance. They're very rarely used, or you can just walk off in the morning and grab a bike and go for a bike ride. So if you like biking, but maybe, on that day 2, there's an excursion you'd rather do, don't worry, there's ample time to bike. I've been on Uniworld with my daughter. She's an avid biker. I'm not, but we're all parents. Or for those of us who are parents, we know a lot of times if your kids want to go biking, you go biking as well. And we actually did this exact itinerary. Um, when was it? I'd have to look back, like 2016, I think. And my daughter and I went biking every morning. It's something she likes to do. We'd get up, we'd go for a bike ride, we'd come back, we'd go to breakfast, and then we'd go out on our excursion for whatever it is for that day. One other thing, kind of going back to the schedule, but I want to talk about, make sure everybody knows this, and I know I said it another time. A river cruise is like a floating hotel. So when your transfer picks you up and takes you to the ship, you just walk on the ship as soon as you get to it. There's not like a cruise terminal where you wait till boarding time or anything. You just walk on. Staterooms, as I said, they say 3 o'clock. Sometimes it's a little earlier. But once you walk on the ship, your vacation's begun. You can go to the lounge. You can have a cocktail if you want one. If you get there early enough, you can have lunch on board. So once you walk on, your vacation's begun. They will take your bags, which they will, which you won't see again until you go to your room, or you're taken to your room, so you can get off the ship if you want to walk around Lyon. But basically, as soon as you walk straight on board, same kind of thing. At the conclusion of the cruise, they ask everybody to be out of their staterooms after breakfast. For those who don't have a flight so early that they're going to miss breakfast, but after breakfast, they ask you to put to vacate your stateroom. They do the thing that people are used to the night before disembarkation. You tag your bags. The bags are tagged, color coded based on what time your transfer is, or if you're on your own, it's a different color for those people that are just going to walk off on their own. But anyway, once you leave your stateroom, you're welcome to stay on the ship until it is time for you to depart. So let's say you have an afternoon flight and, a late afternoon flight, and your transfer's at 1 o'clock. You're welcome to stay on the ship till 1. You're still on vacation. You can have drinks in the lounge. You can have lunch. When lunch is served, you can come on off the ship as you want. Same kind of thing. If you're going from the ship to a hotel, hotel check-in for almost all hotels these days is 3 o'clock. So there's no reason to get off the ship and transfer to your hotel and sit in the lobby when you can stay on board the Catherine. And, even if you're just having coffee or soft drinks, or if you do want a glass of wine, that's all included. And once again, you can have lunch on board the ship and then transfer to your hotel. Just kind of a more relaxing kind of thing. And then one other thing, I mentioned it's a floating hotel. When the ship is docked, and it docks city center, unless it's sailing from one city to the next, you can come on and off the ship wherever you like, whenever you like. So if it sails, let's say when we leave Lyon, it's sailing at dinner, and then the ship docks. It docks at 10 o'clock, whatever, 11 o'clock, whatever time it docks that evening. You're more than welcome to get off the ship anytime that the ship is not moving. So floating hotel. Think of it more as a hotel than a cruise ship. Okay, Masterpiece Collections. Once again, some information about this is included. You have 2 options with the Masterpiece Collections. This kind of goes through it. You can book them in advance. If you book them in advance, you pay US dollars. The price is comparable. When we get to the first one, you'll see the price in US dollars and euros. And once again, I probably didn't make this clear when I talked about everybody has 150 euro onboard credit, is everything on board the ship is priced in euros. So if I want to do a Masterpiece Collection, the price is in euros. If I want to do laundry, it's in euros. The spas, euros. The Diamond Collection, beverages are euros. Everything in the gift shop is euros. And that's why they convert that onboard credit to euros. So if you want to book them in advance, you can book them in advance. There's a price in US dollars. You can kind of read through here, but I can basically tell you that if you book one, say tomorrow, you actually call their reservation department. I'm going to send out an email. I'm going to include all of this information on the Masterpiece Collections in the email that has a link to this, including the number you call if you want to book one of these Masterpiece shore excursions. When you reserve them, they are going to charge your credit card for the US dollar price. You have until 5 days prior to departure, so that would be the 9th, or the 8th rather, because the way they count, until September 8th to cancel and get your refund. If you book something between now and the cruise and you don't cancel outside of that 5 days, it's non-refundable. Okay. You can also book on. You can also book when you get on board. You can book as soon as you get on board if you would like. One of the other things to point out is you have $150 per person onboard credit. If you book in US dollars in advance of the cruise, you cannot use your onboard credit. So you're actually booking through the LA office, kind of a separate entity, if you will, than the ship itself. But if there's one you absolutely want to go on, as I said, you'll get the email tonight. It'll have the 800 number. You call up Uniworld. You say, I want to go on XYZ. I want to go on the kayaking excursion. Doing this from memory, but it's like 40 bucks or whatever it is. So the two of you are going, let's say, they'll charge your credit card $80. When you get on board, it will already be posted to your account. But once again, cannot use your onboard credit. Onboard credit is for purchases on board if you book the excursions in advance. Okay, so there is a masterpiece collection on day 3, 4, and 5. There are 3 of them on day 6 and 1 of them on day 7. So I'm going to go through these relatively quickly. Keep in mind, when I send you the email, either tonight, worst case scenario, tomorrow morning, all this information will be in there. And as I said, you don't, it's not like you have to book right away. But if you want to go, you know, you have the 2 choices when you book it. Okay. Day 3, if you kind of just go through this real quick, I'm not going to kind of read all of these to you. You can read them on your own, but they have 3 different things information they put on. The first is duration, 4 hours and 15 minutes. Activity level, everything that we're going to talk about today is intermediate, except the kayaking, which they put as strenuous. We'll get to that in a minute. And then as you can see, you have the pricing. It's $145 US if you call and book. You have to book, you know, you can't book within 5 days of departure. So you can't wait till the 12th and then call in and say you want to book something, because keep in mind, they're compiling all this information in LA and then they send the information to the ship. So that you have that cutoff. Let's say next week you decide that you want to do this wine tasting. You can call and it's $145, or when you get on board, it's 130 euros. Once again, everybody has 150 euro onboard credit. Okay, day 4, another wine tasting. You know, we're in Burgundy and Provence. There's going to be a lot of wine tasting type of events. So you can read through and you can either do all of them or which one you kind of want to do the best. This one is much shorter. It's 1.5 hours, 250 pre-purchase, 220 euro on board. Day 5, hey, look, another wine tasting. Once again, much longer one, almost 5 hours. You can see the pricing there. So, you know, pick which day you want to do wine tasting. This is a Let's Go kayaking. This is another one that I'm going to let you know is going to be limited. They only have so many kayaks. This picture, by the way, is my family. The first river cruise we took was my daughter's 16th birthday. That's her in the front of the canoe. I mentioned before, bike riding, like most people her age, she's very active. So I actually, in the kayak next to them, it was just the 3 of us. So I actually kayaked with one of the waiters. It was a very fun experience. So, you know, if you do this, you're on water. I had my cell phone in a Ziploc bag. I find those the easiest to use. I do know they also have those plastic things you put in. I find those a little bit more difficult to use, but I just had my cell phone in a Ziploc bag. I actually brought the Ziploc bag with me. I bring Ziploc bags pretty much anytime I travel. It always seems like something comes up where I want a Ziploc bag. So I always have them. So I just brought my cell phone in a Ziploc bag, took it out of the bag and shot a couple of photos. And that's the 2 of them kayaking. I just wanted to show you what the actual kayaking looked like. Granted, this was 6 years ago, or actually more longer than that. Yeah, it was 6 years ago. The date was wrong. It wasn't 2016. But anyway, you went there. I can't remember how many kayaks are in a group. Not a huge number of them. Beautiful. It says it's strenuous. I didn't necessarily think it's strenuous, but you obviously have to paddle. It's what, 3.5 hours. The actual kayaking is in 3.5 hours. Keep in mind, the duration of the tour includes the bus trip. You know, you get there, you get your jackets, you know, everything else. I think actual kayaking was closer to like 1.5 hours, 2 hours. something in that time frame, but absolutely stunning. I was looking to see if I could find a picture of me in a kayak, and then I remembered I was the one taking the picture. So anyway, and then just to go back, this is day 6. So as I mentioned, day 6, there's 3 of them. So that was the kayaking was day 6. This is also day 6. This one's a little different. If you kind of read the description, this is for somebody who wants to do shopping. They mentioned Collector's Island isn't really an island technically, but 300 plus shops, great place for antiques. So if you wanted to spend a day doing shopping, the 3.5 hours would be the bus there, and then the shopping time on your own, and then the bus back. So I don't know what more to say about that. You can obviously read more when you get it. And then cooking. This is one that I would say if you want to do, you might consider booking in advance. If not in advance, as soon as you get on the ship. This is actually pictures of the culinary school or the cooking school at La Mirande. So this is literally from the La Mirande website. I pulled the pictures off their website. So as you can see, it's not a large group kind of cooking experience. So if this is something you wanted to do, this is one of the ones that, as I said, either kind of book it in advance, or if you want to wait when you get on board, sign up for it as soon as you get on board. The tour director will not talk about any of these masterpiece collections when she talks the first night. It's going to be a very quick talk only about the 3 excursions on the next day. The evening of day 2 is when she's going to go through all of the tours, including the masterpiece tours, for the remainder of the cruise. And that is when she hands out the sign-up sheets. I will have a sign-up sheet prior to her talk. So granted, we have 54 people in our group, but I don't know how many people want to sign up for this. But if this is just, I absolutely want to do it, then you may consider signing up in advance. Or if you don't want to do that because you want to use your onboard credit when you get on board, I am going to try having the sign-up sheets all ready when our people board. When you board, by the way, I'll be in the lobby. That's where I'll give you your name tags. I'll have name tags for everybody, and we will have the passenger manifests. I'm going to try getting the sign up for the shore excursions, and so hopefully our folks can sign up in advance. At the very least, I will have a sheet that we will get turned in beforehand. Okay, day 7, olive oil testing. I've done it before. It's a fun event. If you've never done it before, you might do it. This is one of those types of things, unlike wine testing, that you could do over and over again. It's something to consider if you've never done it before, but if you've done it before, you probably are like me and go, I've done it once. It's tasting different olive oils, but a fun kind of little excursion. Okay, so that's the end of the masterpiece collection kind of things. Reminder, I know I've said this repeatedly, but when you get the email, it is going to have basically all the information on the slides right there. That will be the description of it. That, by the way, is all the information I have. Uniworld provides that, 1 paragraph description of the tour, and then they give the pricing. When you get on board on the second evening, when the tour director kind of goes through everything, she might have a bit more information at that point. You'd also be able to ask her questions. So if you're unsure of any of those kind of masterpieces, you can wait till you get on board, and the tour director is in the lobby, just like I will be in the lobby, and you can go up and ask her questions if you want or need more information. So we are almost at the end for those who have questions. I see we already have 7. So as a reminder, if anybody came in late, there should at the bottom be a little conversation bubble that says Q&A. If you don't see it, there's a round circle with 3 dots in it that says more. If you click on that, it'll give you more options and you'll see Q&A. So once we kind of get through this last kind of information, I'll start answering questions. Okay. A lot of times people ask about currency exchange. In almost all cases, your lowest exchange fees is going to go to an ATM. If you're only getting a few dollars, most ATMs are going to charge a service fee in addition to the exchange. So if you're only going to get like 10 or 20 euros, you might be better served doing it one of like those TravelX offices or something like that. Uniworld says they have a limited amount of currency on hand. I've never been on one where they've run out, but I don't think they have enough if everybody on board went up and said, I want 200, euros. They talk about, their recommendation, which is a good one. If all you have is large bills, particularly we talked about that kind of antique place or whatever, more and more places now. It's very unusual for places not to take credit cards anymore. Even 5-6 years ago, the little kind of flea markets or the whatever markets, the whatever, a lot of places didn't take it. Now almost everybody does. But if you want cash, they talk about if you have like big bills like a 50 or 100, either go to the reception desk, see if they can break it, or any bank will break larger bills for smaller bills for you. Or you can do like I did when we were on Greek Isle. Somebody was asking about how they could get change. The Atlas yacht cruises don't have this currency exchange. And I told them I bought a bottle of water for €1 and gave them a $50 bill. And that's how I got $49 in change. Gratuities are included. So everyone on board has already been paid their gratuity. They have, I think it's $28 or $29 a day by the time you have, your cabin steward or stewardess, your busboy, your waiter, the maitre d', all those people are involved. So they're already paid. Had a number of people on the last cruise ask, what if I want to give them something extra? If you want to give them something extra, the easiest thing to do is just hand it to them. Or if it's your cabin steward, or if you're in a suite, you have a butler, just leave it like on the counter if you want to do something. But once again, all of your gratuities have already been paid. So you are under no obligation to tip anybody. They've already been tipped. But a lot of times people go, what if, my cabin steward was phenomenal, or there's one waiter we had most evenings was just such a treat. Then it's up to you what you give them. And the easiest thing to do is just, hand them whatever that amount is. Gratuities for the onshore personnel, that would be the guides and your bus driver. They have the recommendation of, $2 for the guide, $1 actually dollars, €2 for the guide, €1 for the driver. Another reason that you might want to have some change. Once again, this is not required. This is tipping. So, it depends on whether or not you think what they did deserved a tip or not. Personal preference. Some people do, some people don't. 100% up to you. There's a fitness center. I just put this in there because some people ask. It is small. I think the typical kind of alignment, for lack of a better word, also they have like a small room. It does look out over the water. They'll have like one treadmill, one bike, maybe one rowing machine, and perhaps some weights. But there is that. It's open 24 hours a day. Water. All cruise lines now, if you haven't gone on a cruise lately, have gotten away from plastic bottles. And when you hear the number of bottles, plastic bottles that were being used on cruise ships worldwide, it was millions of plastic bottles. So they mention you can drink out of the fountains. People ask that all the time on cruises. You can drink out of the fountains. They also give you a water bottle for yours to keep. And then they have a couple of stations on board the ship where you can go and fill up that water bottle. They're kind of intended for when you get off the ship for excursions. But there you go. You're going to have a water bottle. If you use one, they're not insulated unless Uniworld's changed it since December of last year. So if you want an insulated bottle, bring your own. But if you're just going to bring a standard water bottle, just know there's going to be one per person in your staterooms, and they're yours to keep. Okay. That's kind of all the information that when I kind of looked through everything that I put together, that I thought it was important everybody knew. So we are now going to go to the questions and see what I might be able to answer. Okay. Hi, Steve. Okay. Both our cruise have only my name, but not my wife. Is that correct? Russ, that might have been a mistake. The subject line should be each of you should have received an email with your own subject line on it. If you can just drop me a quick email, and if you can just drop me an email and let me know which one you don't have, because you're not clear on it. Let me know which one you're looking for. It must have accidentally, instead of sending one to Russ and one to Nancy, somebody must have accidentally sent either the Russ one twice or the Nancy one twice. Just so you know, sort of like at a hotel, I mean, you don't really need to print all of this off. A lot of people like to, when you have the 4 attachments, a lot of people like to print off that passenger ticket. As I mentioned, if there's any issues, I'm on board. But typically, just so you know, having done Uniworld cruises for the past 6 years now, you walk in, they ask you your name. They're not going to ask for your cruise ticket confirmation. If you want to print it off and bring it, that's great. But if you're halfway to the airport and you forgot to bring it, don't turn around and go back and get it. I have everybody's cruise documents already saved. So if you got to the ship and they're like, we need to see your cruise passenger ticket, and you don't have it with you, I can either email it to them or print it off and you'll have one. So, but yeah, if you want one of each, Russ and Nancy, just let me know and I'll print the other one off. Is it laundry free for River Heritage Club members? Russ, I think you are correct. Let me verify that. River Heritage, for those who don't know, if you're a past passenger on Uniworld, like a lot of cruise lines, they have a name for the past passenger program. And so Uniworld calls it the River Heritage program. And they have, now that you're sailing on your first cruise, you will receive a discount on all future Uniworld cruises. And I think the other amenity is free laundry. Let me look into that, and the email I send, I'll make sure I explain exactly what that is, if it's 1 time, 2 times, if there's any kind of limit on that. And when we're talking about a discount on future cruises, when you're on board this sailing and for a period of time after you get off, the way they present it on board is if you book on board. But we typically get an extension on that of at least a couple of weeks. If you book a future Uniworld cruise, you get 5% off that future cruise. That would be in addition to the River Heritage discount, which is normally $100 to $150 per person. If you don't know when you want to go, you can book a future cruise certificate. That's basically just putting down a deposit, and then you get 3% off any future cruise that you select. I always recommend people do that if you liked it, you're considering going again. Those future cruise certificates do not have an expiration. So if you get on board, you buy a future cruise certificate, and a year down the road, 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road, you decide, you know what, I'm not going to go on Uniworld again. You can cancel that future cruise certificate and they'll give you your money back. So there's no risk whatsoever. You can buy one on board, and then 3 weeks later, you decide, you know what, we're not going to go on Uniworld again. We decided to do something else for the next couple of years. You can cancel it, and they put that money back on your credit card. When do we make our excursion choices? Okay. When you get on board, that's when you make your choices of what excursions you want. The first night on board, the tour director will talk about the 3 tours that are available on day 2. And then the evening of day 2, she will have a longer talk. It will be like a short excursion talk where she will go through all of the excursions for the remainder of the cruise, both the ones that are included and the masterpiece collections that you purchase. The only real exception I said to, if you look at what's available on board, the only one that you need to be concerned about is the biking tour, because all the other ones are designed to accommodate as many people who want to go. I'll just give you an example. For Paris and Normandy last year, they have 3 excursions that are available to go on when you're in Normandy. We did a cruise on June 2nd and June 9th, and on both dates, 100% of the people picked the exact same excursion, and they just had all 3 buses. Maybe it was 4 buses. I think it was 4 buses. Anyway, they had all 4 buses go to that excursion. One other thing they always have kind of what they call a bus 6. Bus 6 is for those people that go at a slightly slower pace. So if you are concerned about how quick, particularly like in the walking tours or something like that, people are going to be walking. You know, they're like bus 1 is going here, bus 2 is going here. They'll have a bus 6 option for those people who want a little bit slower pace. Okay. What time you can board? I think I just went over that. It's like a floating hotel. So when you get to the ship, you walk on the ship. So there is not a boarding time or a disembarking time. When you get there, you walk on. Your room may not be ready till 2 or 3 in the afternoon, but once you walk on board the ship, your vacation's begun. You can have lunch on board, you can have drink on board, whatever you may like. So there isn't a boarding time. When you get to the ship, you walk on the ship. By the way, one other thing, it's not as common on embarkation and disembarkation, more common when you're into the cruise, but there are times where ships park next to each other if you haven't been on a river cruise before. So just don't be shocked if when you get to the ship, you walk across a Viking ship and then you walk across, you know, an Avalon ship, and then you get to the Catherine. But as I said, that's very rare on embarkation and disembarkation, but very common once you kind of get into other ports on the cruise, that, you know, you're walking either through or, you know, over the, you know, you go up to the whatever the top deck, the sun deck, most of them call it, that you up the sun deck and you walk across the sun deck because they don't want people walking through the lobby and that. So I think that kind of hits it. Where can we find descriptions of excursions? I don't see them in the companion. Okay. I'm trying to think how to say that. The description of it, I'll send a link so you can actually see what they have online, so you can kind of read them. I was going to include the descriptions of the excursions for the Masterpiece collections, but once again, when you get on the ship, with the exception of biking, that first night she's going to describe the excursions for day 2, and you sign up that evening. And then on Tuesday night, she describes all of the excursions in a Q&A format for the remainder of the cruise, and you can go on whichever excursion you want. So I can send a link so you can go online and you can read the description of all the excursions, but you cannot, for the free excursions or the complimentary excursions, you cannot book them in advance. You need to book them when on your ship. So, like I said, can we copy of the slides? I'm going to send everybody a copy of the presentation so you can go through that, and any of the slides you want to look at. I wasn't planning on including all of the slides in the email. I was planning on including the descriptions of the Masterpiece collections. Russ, if there's a particular slide you'd like, I can send it to you. But as I said, you're going to have a link to rewatch the entirety of the webinar. Will tickets to Masterpiece collections be delivered to our staterooms, or will we get them at the front desk? Linda, they will deliver them to your stateroom. Room accommodation for down allergy. James, when you registered for the cruise, and everybody registered because they will not send out documents until you've registered. So you went online and you registered. There should have been a section on medical. So like if you have a CPAP machine and you distill water or whatever that medical condition is, you should have done it in pre-registration. But why don't you send me an email and just let me know for sure, and then I will forward an email to Uniworld. I'm assuming what you're asking for, James, I think you mentioned this being on the Greece cruise. Maybe it was somebody else. But you just don't want down pillows or down comforters in your room. So drop me an email and I will forward it to Uniworld and make sure they have that information. Is EU restricting use of electricity on the board? When we did the Uniworld issues, I've heard nothing about the restricting the use of electricity on board the ship. By the way, I probably should have included this. Normally comes up. There will be both European and U.S. outlets in your stateroom. If you're concerned how many plug-in types of things you have, I think the easiest thing to do is just bring one of those plug-ins that you can plug multiple things into. Linda, I will ask, I have not heard from anyone, from any of our agents here or anything about restricting the use of electricity on board the ship. I might even call you. I'm not even sure what you're referring to. Like they're telling you that you can't plug stuff in your room. I don't even know how they'd moderate. That's interesting. Linda, I'm going to give you a call. You've piqued my curiosity. Lots of passengers provide gratuities for onboard personnel. While it isn't required, I think it's more common than not. Okay. I'm going to tell you that on the Greek Isles cruise, and maybe some people didn't even ask me, but on the Greek Isles cruise, it was 7 nights. I had a table in the lobby for the entire, actually the coffee shop, but whatever. I had a table that I was at for all 7 days, and out of the, 90 cabins we'd sold on that ship, only 4 or 5 people asked me about additional tipping. So, all I really know is when people ask me about it, so, in the course of 7 days, 5 of the 180 people, 160 people rather, sorry, 5 of the 160 people came up and asked about it, but there could have been a lot of people that didn't even bother to ask, they just handed them cash. But those 5 questions were all basically the same. We want to provide somebody an extra tip. How do we do it? Once again, whether it's common or not, it is an individual decision. So don't feel obligated to tip because other people are tipping. It's a personal decision. Everyone is going to have already seen standard gratuities. If you want to tip everybody, tip everybody. If you want to tip one person, tip one person. If you don't want to tip anybody, don't tip anybody. The gratuities for our group was a lot of money, and it's the standard tipping. So, do what you'd like. Okay, that is all the questions we have so far. 2:58, right at an hour. If you think of anything, give us a call, 1-800-211-5107. They should put the email address is mail@moavac.com, MOAA VAC, short for vacation. So mail@moavac.com. So either give us a call or drop us an email if you have any further questions. As I said, we need to actually need to download this. I need to edit it, and then we need to upload it to YouTube. And I say me, someone here needs to do all of that, and then draft the email and send it out. So I'm going to include not only the link to this webinar, I'm going to include the information on all the Masterpiece collections. I'm going to include the information for River Heritage members as far as complimentary laundry, and I'm going to include a link to the Uniworld website where you can go, and when you look at it, I don't think it defaults at it. So I think when you go to the page for this cruise, which I can put the link that will take you exactly to the page for this Burgundy Provence cruise, there's 2 tabs, and one's going to be Lyon to Arles, and the other one's going to be Arles to Lyon. I don't think I can select which one of those, but if I can, I will. And then they list day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and you click on that day, and then it will have a description of the complimentary excursions and a description of the Masterpiece collection excursions as well. One thing I'm going to say on the Masterpiece collection is I think on one of the dates, what is on their website is not the same for one of the Masterpiece collections. From memory, I'm going to say I think it's day 4. So if you're looking at Masterpiece collections and you look at what's on the Uniworld website, and what the web page is going to be for every Burgundy Provence cruise from I think April to when they stop doing it in October or November. Our sailing has a different Masterpiece collection on that day. So if you notice a discrepancy on the 2, the default should be the email I'm going to send you, not Uniworld's website. As funny as that sounds, but literally Uniworld sent me the information a few weeks ago before I left for Greece that went through and had what the Masterpiece collections are going to be. So it's more current information, I guess I would say. All right. Thanks everybody for showing up. As I said, I will be on board the Catherine when you guys get on board. unless you get there crazy early. I'm planning on boarding around 8 a.m. that morning. And I will have a table in the lobby. Stop by and see me after you check in at the registration desk. I'll give you your name tags and your other information. And don't forget, I would highly recommend bringing something for the black and white party. Last year we did a disco party, so it was a little more difficult to get an outfit. Black and white should be fairly simple. Don't feel like you have to go out and buy anything, but most people have at least one of those covers. It's just kind of a fun kind of dress up thing, adult Halloween, if you will. So 3 o'clock, we did right at an hour. That's perfect. Be on the lookout for the email, and any questions or concerns between now and the 13th, excuse me, between now and the 12th, just give us a call here at the office or drop me an email. I'm flying on the 12th, so I won't be accessible on the 12th, but I will be in Lyon on the 13th. Give me a text or a call anytime the 13th or the 14th if anything comes up. And I look forward to seeing everybody in Lyon. Have a great day.